Hey, welcome back to Joe and Jay Outspoken. Here we are again a week later after our 100th episode, Joe. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, bro. 101. I can't even fathom
Yeah.
that. Like,
We're at
I
101
remember when
right
I was
now.
still back in Michigan.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Remember when I was back in Michigan? Yeah, we just started doing our thing and talking. And I mean, it's funny because we started doing this because we love to talk. And you and I always were engaged in some weird conversation that always just, I don't know, it's almost like the consent stuff we'd laugh at. Like, oh, bro, it's just common sense. Why are people doing that? I'm glad
How can
we're
people
where
be
we're
so
at.
silly and dumb over, the simplest things that are out there? Well, listen, everybody, before we get started, make sure
Yeah.
you smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification icon to get updated whenever we upload a new episode.
So yeah. Anyway, man, it was good having Manny in our last episode. I think it was a good conversation. I mean, we're always talking about like our perspective on things, and we don't really hear anybody else's. But it was kind of interesting to see, just how everything that we talked about kind of made sense with him. You know what I mean? And his perspective of things, and kind of like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. And I don't know. To me, it seems like okay, we're on the right path. We're talking the right stuff, but there's always like more to it, like we know, well, what's the next step, and what is the next step? We don't know what the next step is. Boy, we don't even know what the next step is on our show. What are we going to do? Next step, anything else? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's how today's kind of came about is we're like, what are we going to go over today? Because we didn't have anything specifically planned. And I think one of the things that was important about last week's episode was not just that it was the 100th, but, having Manny on to obviously tell his story for the first time ever. And he did it on here, which was, crazy, super admirable, but still crazy, right?
I wouldn't do it, bro. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I love that guy, man.
I'm
man.
So both of us we're very private, so we
right.
We wouldn't do that stuff.
Well, you know what?
All of a sudden, he's talking about it. I'm like, ugh.
I think that's the thing that's important for everybody to understand is that I think most guys, for the most part, are private, right? And Manny is too. And I don't want to talk a whole lot about him because he's not on here to feed in, and we will get him back on the program eventually here. But I think it was really great that we had him on and he was saying things that you and I have talked about. We've actually talked about in previous Men's Edition episodes. And there's a lot of guys that are out there that have that same feeling. We got some comments on that episode, about, it's nobody cares. I mean, it's just whatever, guys all have that same feeling. They feel the same way about, relationships and just how people look at men in general out in the ether there. So, and it's been getting, I don't want to say worse, but it's been getting more prevalent over the years because of, the feminist movement has made it where, well, what was that thing that was going on not too long ago? I'd rather be in a bear in the woods than with a guy. And I don't need right. And I don't need a man to take care of me. I make all kinds of money and all this kind of stuff. And it's one of those funny things. I've seen so many of these.
Women are crazy.
Yeah, we still love them, but they can be something else sometimes, right? One of the things, I've watched some of these different shows and they'll have these guys talking to girls on the panel and everything. And that's what we need to do is we need to get some girls' perspectives in this one of these days.
We did have one, remember? We probably need to call her back up.
Yeah, get her back on here, yeah. But they'll talk to these girls and they're like, as a female, would you ever date a guy that's working like at Burger King or something, let's say, or Home Depot or whatever? And the girl's like, oh, no, absolutely not. I couldn't do that. And it's like, well, see, there's the difference. Like a guy he wouldn't care where she works, right? Because you're in it for the relationship part. We're not looking for it's not a barter and trade deal, right? On the whole thing. So there's a big difference in categories of what men and women look for. Women look more for love in a relationship, what they interpret and feel as love, whatever that is they think. And men look for respect in a relationship. They need to feel like they're respected and needed, right? Because Like I've
Yeah.
told girlfriends, I'm like, if you're with a guy and he takes you out to dinner or something like that, one of the best things you can do is say, wow, I'm so glad you picked this place. It was an amazing place to go to dinner. It's really great. He didn't cook the food. He didn't do any of that stuff, but because he's trying to make you happy. If the whole time you sat there and complained about the food and the service and, oh, I would never come back here again, you don't realize, what that does to the guy. The guy feels like he failed, right? Because he was supposed to have picked a good
Right.
place to
Yeah.
go to. And you would say, well, dinners, who cares? It is what it is. But it means a lot to a guy to take care of a female when they're dating and first starting out.
I think men are held to a higher standard and more scrutinized than anything.
Right, because the first thing that would be said,
I think that's the
first thing that would
biggest
be
problem.
said there would be that, so you took me to this place or whatever, and I didn't like it, and now you're going to get all sensitive that I didn't like it. So that goes back to that whole thing of you want us to tell us how you feel, but you actually don't want to know how we feel about this kind of stuff, right? So
yeah, well, of course they don't. I mean, they just it's something that they want to throw out there. Like, okay, they are sensitive, but let me tell you something. It's funny because me and my ex were talking about this because of our kids, and it seems like today's women are very different. They were brought up differently. Their expectations are different. Their behaviors are different. It's just like today, I think, is so much harder to find a true romance, a true love, a true relationship, because I think the bar is ridiculous. Like,
Right.
It's funny because they want to hold a man to this standard, but they don't hold themselves to that same standard as an individual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, where's the fairness? Everyone's all about this DEI stuff and quality and stuff. But when it comes to like in a relationship, I feel like this whole feminist movement went to the deep end. Like it overshot. Like you're always trying to hit that target. Then you just overshoot it. You're like, well, that happened. And I think that's where the feminists are. And this whole femininity is ridiculous because it's almost like that. And I hate to bring it up, but it's a true story, and it's still happening today. You have all our black friends, not our black friends, but our black friends out there in our audience. They're like talking about slavery. That keeps getting brought up, and not years and years have passed, right? Same thing with us Mexicans. We're like, oh, you stole this land. Let it go. Like your narrative is clearly skewed from remotely any truth. So you're fighting these weird. I feel that the feminists, the girls, are the same way. They feel like something's owed to them now. Like, oh no, you've been suppressed for so long that now you owe us this, and you need to bow. Remember when the whole BLM stuff happened and the white folks were on leashes? The black people were pulling them on leashes and they were kissing their boots and licking their boots. That's where I feel that women think they have us. It's like, you're on a leash, you're gonna lick my boot, and you're gonna do what I say. Like, why? What changed? What happened that now like there's this toxic femininity going on, and men are like left standing there like picking up the pieces? Like, I just wanted a spicy chicken sandwich. That's all I really wanted. We blew this out of proportion. I don't know, Jay. I just think that now it's just blown out the water. I think it's ridiculous. And I think that it seems like with time, it keeps getting worse. Now you have, and I'm telling you, all this is relevant because now you have a president. I mean, clearly he got popular vote. He got all the votes he needed to win, right? Because there's been a change. People don't like the stuff that the left has been doing, and they want progress. They want, they want to see action instead of just a lot of this. But you're always going to have that hateful group. The group that's just attacking and look at this. He walked this way and that just means this. And everybody's all of a sudden could read movements and eyebrows and, oh my God, that Zelensky guy, poor guy, he brought him in and he just attacked him and blah, blah, blah. Everyone knows everything but the truth. You know what I mean? And we're living in this weird world right now where these people who have all these anger, this hatefulness towards one man, everything they spew is just bad. It's just evil. And that kind of trickles down. It trickles down into the populace. You know what I mean? And people are looking at that and they're reacting to that and they're behaving that way. So they're like, we have a bad president, so we're going to protest. We're going to do this. Women all of a sudden do this. The LGBTQRX community is doing this. And everything is going haywire. We're focusing on common sense, something that I feel we lost 4 or 5 years ago. Guys, this is not very difficult calculus or arithmetic that you have no clue what, a definition is of from point A to point B or whatever. It's just common sense things. Be a good person, have good morals, have good standards, hope for the best, do things for people, just simple stuff like, okay, look, that light is red with a little red hand. I'm going to just go ahead and cross because, you know what? I deserve this. I'm a citizen.
Right.
And I could do these things, and I'm all right. Good luck with that car that's coming down
Yeah.
50 miles an hour.
I identify that is a green light, not a red hand. Yeah. Yeah. Good luck. I mean,
Yeah, and this is crazy thing though, Jay. This is the thing I'm talking about, that we've lost and we're throwing common sense out the window. Nothing matters. It's only their belief system. It's only what they believe in their little world. You know, we talked a little bit about perception and reality in one of our episodes. Their perception has overshadowed their reality, and now they're living in la la land. They're not standing on some strong firmament. They're just standing on, like in the Bible, right? If you stand on like sand, your house is not going to stand very long. But if you build it on on a solid rock, on foundation, it's going to last a long time. People nowadays are just, they're walking on this sandy beach, and they don't have nothing to stand on. Like, they have no basis on their arguments, no scruples. They have no morals. They have none of that. And they're just talking because a good Lord gave them that, and because our soldiers fought for that for them. To me, it's getting old. I'm like, it's really getting old. It's getting frustrating. Like, I don't want to live in a time where the first generation that with our children that are not going to be able to afford a home. Like,
oh yeah,
that.
I was talking to somebody about that today.
Crazy.
Yesterday. And you know, that whole thing you said about, you know, walking out on the sand and stuff and building a house on proper foundation. You know, there's a old little nursery rhyme everybody remembers, the three little pigs, right? And one builds its house out of straw, one out of wood, and one out of brick. And it's that same kind of concept. And yeah, there was a guy that did this. Was funny. I don't know if it was a true thing or he was just telling the story, but it was so great because he says, there, he meets up with this guy that identifies as a female, but he's still a man. But he says, no, you need to call me a woman and all this kind of stuff. And he's got this Rottweiler, and he's like, hey, I'm telling you right now, man, my Rottweiler doesn't like guys. He's cool with women. He's like, oh, well, I identify as a female. He was like, well, you better let me know, because I mean, the dog, he's going to sort it out for you, you know, kind of thing. And right there is the whole problem with all of this stuff. These folks go in for an emergency into a hospital emergency room, and the doctor says, I'm going to check your testicles. I'm a female. I don't identify as having testicles. Well, you know, you have them, and we're going to check them, you know, because whatever's,
they're just very small. They're just very
yeah. They're innies, not an outie. Oh, you know, I don't know why, out of all things, I don't know why I picked the low hanging fruit.
We know why. We know.
You know, that's one of those things that, so you've got these folks that are identified, and you and I feel the same way about this. I don't care about what people do in their private life and how they want to identify and all that kind of stuff. The problem is that it has become a mass hysteria that if everybody else doesn't go along with their delusion, that it becomes an issue. That just doesn't make any sense for anybody, right? For them to make it a bit bigger deal than it is, right? Like, you want to dress up and self-identify this way, fine. Go along your happy little day and everything. Just understand that that's not the normal way that everything goes along in the world. Again, the animals are going to go sniff your crotch, and they're going to know if you're a boy or a girl. You can say whatever you want, but nature knows what is actually physically going on. And again, you go into a hospital and there's something going on, and they say it's somebody identifying as a dude that's a woman, and they say it's probably you're having issues with your ovaries or something like that. Oh, well, I don't identify as a female. I don't have ovaries. Well, you're going to die if we don't get in there and take those fictional ovaries out of you, you know, kind of thing. So this is the stuff that just doesn't make, again, you want to play dress up, you want to play pretend and all that kind of stuff. Knock yourself out. I'm not going to judge you.
But here's the thing. It's also hard to fight that when you have doctors who are feeding into that perception.
Right.
Because, the mighty buck, instead of like saying, hey, I'm going to send you, I'm going to refer you to a friend of mine who's, you know, deals with mental health and blah, blah, blah. They're like, you don't need those testicles. You're going to look fabulous with some chi-chis. You know what I mean? And, we're going to fix you right up and stuff like that. So I agree with you in that. Like, the problem is, could you imagine if it only stopped with that individual? It doesn't. That's the problem. It doesn't stop with that individual, because that individual then gets fed all these BS. Oh, you're beautiful, and if that's what you feel like, if you feel like a woman inside, then bring it out. Bring it out. Let's do some things. Can we kind of find out why he feels like a woman? What was there something that happened in a trauma in his life as a young kid, or whatever the case is? What happened? Were you bullied? I mean, there's answers for a lot of things. Being that you and I were very religious and stuff, our belief system is based on a bunch of different other factors than the common sense, right? Religion is also a little bit of common sense. Once you start studying the Bible and reading and finding a foundation somewhere, that becomes common sense. That becomes your norm. And I think when people, and again, like you said earlier, follow the mighty buck, we've lost. I mean, Big Pharma, let's be honest, bro. Big Pharma wouldn't be in business if it wasn't for the doctors that push all these things, or
That's right.
say, oh, you got this, or what that. I mean, you and I both know that. I mean, that doesn't take a conspiracy theorist to kind of underline that. So with that being in mind already, that we know that they're pushing their narcotics or whatever it is that they're producing or they're pushing, doctors are doing the same thing with the patients. If that's how you feel, I miss the days where I remember like going to our family doctor and they were like straight up with you. Like I remember as a kid going over there like, well, maybe you need to stop taking all that sugar so you're not all hyper and running around. Maybe it wouldn't hurt you to lose a few pounds there, Gordy cakes. They were honest. They say, or they tell you, hey, you know what you need to do is just do this, or at home get this. And they would give you like little remedies that would not pertain to medication, that had nothing to do with a med or anything like that. Like doctors really wanted to fix you. Today, they just want to kill you. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, now they just want to give you whatever the pharmaceutical companies have, they send their reps out and they give the samples and stuff like that. Normally those reps, who are they? They're hot young girls, right? That they send to the doctors. Women. Absolutely. And they send them in, they give them all these samples and they say, well, if you pitch this, we'll maybe hook you up down the road kind of thing. You don't have to go back very far. In our kitchens and sometimes living rooms or whatever, we had what was called apothecary, right? You had medicines and natural things that people had. How many times have you heard things like, oh, if you burn yourself, slice up some onion and put on it or whatever? All these different like, oh, take a little bit of this mint, if your stomach's upset and you can eat a little bit of mint and it makes you feel better.
Toothpaste on a burn.
There you go. Yeah. All those kind of things that are just really natural, non-toxic and non-evasive. You really think about a lot of the stuff that they start to give you. Think about this, man. I haven't had TV for years, but every once in a while I'll be somewhere and watching TV and you'll see one of these pharmaceutical commercials come on. And it says, get this Canzam Lipitor, Fizan Fisser Whipple, whatever pill it is. And they're like, it's gonna fix your heartburn, but it's gonna leave you with leaky butt all the way up to and could cause death. Man,
150 list of
yeah. And there's the guy that does, like auctions and stuff like that, talking at the end. It's gonna cause all these different things. And
oh my God, yeah. And then do you remember back the little last thing at the end? Possibly death.
Yeah, may cause death. Why would I would not take that, You even think about it, and this is always a touchy one because so many people have been touched by cancer. Cancer is one of those things that either give you, what do you call it, chemotherapy or radiation treatment, and the survivability is extremely low on that stuff. There's a small chance that you're going to make it through all of that, and you're going to go through a lot of pain and everything. And the industry is making a lot of money off of that. Right now, I'm not saying that doctors are prescribing stuff that's going to kill you and just make a bunch of money off you, but a hospital is basically a big hotel room for sick people. They don't make any money if the rooms aren't filled up. They need to have all those rooms full all the time. And so, it is an industry that people in a general basis, we don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to us because, like you said earlier, one of the things that we want to do is you want to help people, right? You would think the doctor is getting the person to come in. They're going to see what's going on, and they may give them something for immediate treatment, right? If they're in pain or what have you. To, back in the day, they just give you a couple Tylenols and send you on your way or whatever. Well, now it's gotten way past that. Now, obviously, Tylenol's probably gotten from the original Tylenol to what it is now. I'm sure there's quite a bit of difference in the makeup of it, but the amount of stuff that is prescribed to people now because of sicknesses and things like that is just incredible. the amount of things that are out there to fix every single little bitty ailment. The third knuckle on my ring finger is hurting. Oh, we have a specific pain medication for that, just for that one knuckle. Now it's going to make the other 9 knuckles hurt, but it'll fix that one for you, kind of thing. And it just becomes so ridiculous in how we have become so dependent on a medical industry that is truly not in the business of making you better. It's in the business of selling you treatment, right? And that's the thing that's really hard for us to get past there. I mean, anybody that doesn't see the last, 3-4 years here with the big scare that went on, well, you're going to get that vaccine for free. Well, it wasn't for free. Those companies made more profits that year than any other year, right?
Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing. It's so great. Let's you and I go along with it and say we agree 100% with all of that stuff, and everybody got the shots for free and everything. So riddle me this, Batman. Why can't we get insulin absolutely for free for all of the public? Why can't we get all these different treatments and stuff free for people? Obviously, we can just give things away for free, but there is a specific desire for them to give things away for free because they need people to be the guinea pigs for. And we've talked about this before too. Our poor young men and women that are going into the military. I mean, they are government pincushions, right?
Guinea pigs, man.
Guinea pigs, man. Big time.
So I think you're right. But you know what? There was something I heard the other day. It wasn't really a quote, but someone was saying it. That imagine if the pharmaceutical companies created cures, they'd not be in business, right?
Right.
Or if the banks would help you pay off your debt, it'd be no banks,
Right.
It was just things like that. And I'm like, it makes sense. If you're in a business, you're going to be in a business that people require or want whatever product that you're given. Coffee. People love coffee. They get addicted to coffee. They want a coffee shops. And those things make business. It could be a little rinky-dinky little shop in the corner, or it could be a big old Starbucks, and they're filled either way, right? There's people there. It doesn't matter what. So hospitals, right? They need business. So you're going to tell me that pharmaceutical companies are not in bed with hospitals or not in bed with politicians for certain districts for a certain reason? Like, I could almost picture that all those lobbyists, they're busy in Florida. And why would I say Florida? Because that's a high area for retirement.
Oh, yeah.
And so you want focus on that, right?
Right.
Now, I'm not talking about lobbyists down going to Florida. I'm talking about lobbyists hitting them representatives from Florida in Congress, whether they're Democrats, liberal, or Republicans,
Independents.
fill their pockets. We've all seen that. I think you brought it up once where this is their salary. This is what they're worth. You're like, how did you go from a bartender making, 130,000 in Congress to millions? You're like,
Yeah.
there's what's going on? Right? Pelosi, right? Like, that chick is richer than rich, right?
Yeah.
But no one brings that up. And so you start to think, like, are they selling out the American people? Yes, they absolutely are. I mean, that's a stupid question. Why am I even asking that to you?
For sure.
But they're selling us out for what? To enrich and line their own pockets, because we are meaningless to them. We're only important to them when it comes to the polls. It's only important to them when we start to vote. Besides that, they do absolutely nothing for the American people. Not an ounce. They might pass a law or two, right? Like recently, you've seen these little cringy videos that politicians are making, right? They're making these weird videos of like superheroes and video games. They're making, like, the left is going crazy. They saw what Trump did with the youth of America with social media, and now they're in it, but they're going about it in such a cringy way.
Yeah,
it's
cringy,
weird.
creepy.
Yeah, bro. Right. There was this politician, a lefty, who made a video. The song that comes to mind when someone asks me to ban abortion, and it was an Aussie song. What was it? Thunder. And I'm like thinking, bro, that's cringy. That I'm gonna go out there, we're gonna fight. I'm not gonna fight against that. I'm gonna fight against you. You're a representative of your district. They put you there because they want you to represent them, their voice, not yours. Not you're worthless. The only reason they voted for you is because your promises were in line with their beliefs. And somehow now you kind of backpedaled and you're doing all these other things and you're enriching yourself and saying adios to your district. You totally given up on them. And so people, I think, bro, let's just say it. People are just dumb. People are ignorant and they're dumb. and they've lost common sense. Clearly not our
Yeah.
viewers, right? Because they're intelligent people for tuning in.
Right.
Everybody else are dummies. But you know what I'm saying. We've lost the common sense of things. The simplest of things. The first example I gave you right now. How is it that according to Congress, your salary is $134,000 to be a senator or a representative, but you are worth millions, and your background doesn't come from a rich family. It comes from the fact that you were a bartender. And we don't understand, how did you get this money? If this is what you're making, it's like me. I got this $90,000 a year job, but I'm making 1.2 million. I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
how are you making that?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I'm trafficking drugs on the same time.
right. So think about that. I mean, the police department, FBI, somebody, if they're like, okay, this guy's got this job. Yeah. Like you say, making $65,000, $70,000 a year, right? Kind of average across the country, whatever. And,
Yeah.
you're living in a $2.3 million home, and you've got a small yacht off the Florida coast, and you've got a vacation home out in California somewhere. They're going to wonder about that, man. They're going to question it. So, but that's because we are average people, right? We're average people. When the Democrats were in charge, they hired 85 IRS agents to come after us. It wasn't to go after big business, bro. You know who it was to go after. It was to go after us.
No.
And now that the current administration is going after money that has been lost, billions lost over in Ukraine and so many other places, everybody's up in arms about it. And it's like, man, so you guys are so good with us losing money to other countries and being completely disrespectful to our own people, right? Because you think about Lahaina, nothing's happened over there, right? LA, probably nothing's going to happen there. The only reason I would say that LA might get the best treatment out of the four that I'm going to mention would be because they have such powerful people in Hollywood and stuff that have been affected by what went on. North Carolina, right? Everything that went on over there. Palestine, Ohio, everything that went on over there. They got nothing, right? Our veterans, the VA has been a S show for the longest time, right? So the Veterans Administration, I had to personally deal with that with my dad before he passed away. It was a mess, man. And everything that the government touches is just kind of, it's a dumpster fire. We can't trust them with our checkbook. We really can't. It's like some young girl, a rich dad gives him a credit card and doesn't tell her what to do, and she goes out with all of her friends and buys clothes and food and makeup and everything and a new car and stuff. What do you expect? There is no accountability, and that's what we've done with our government. There's zero accountability. All this stuff happens. I see it all the time. People post on X or Instagram or whatever, and they will say, well, yeah, they just caught these people. What did they do about it? What did they do to them? Nothing. There's no accountability. None of these, remember, I mean, even back in Trump's first go round, we're going to release the Kraken. We're going to do all this kind of stuff. We're going to put all this stuff out into the world so people see it. I mean, just recently, what was the one with Pam Bondi, the whole thing with the Epstein files and all that kind of stuff. They had the folders out there, and it ended up being like nothing. And they lose a lot of credibility to, the general public just wanting answers for some of this nonsense. And I know there's this whole deal, all in my portion of this deal with the moon landing, right? You have people that completely believe that we never set foot on the moon. And then you have, of course, people that are like, come on, we've got proof and all this kind of stuff that we were on the moon, what have you. You would think you would just want to put it out there, right? One way or the other, and just be done with it. Now, some folks would say, well, no, because if the general public ever knew that was a big lie, they would think everything's a lie. And that is a big problem, because how much stuff has been lied about? I mean, we've caught a lot of it so far, right? And the sad part is, like, the conspiracy theorists, that we think, the conspiracy theorist people have been right more than they've been wrong. I'm not saying people haven't got cockamamie ideas and think that this weird situation's going on, all the ducks in the world are spies for the Russian government or something like that. Yeah, I get it. Some people have some stupid ideas for things. There's a lot of stuff, man, that has come to pass, especially after the last, I'd say, just 8 years, really. In 8 years, a lot of stuff has come around. But if you go back about 25, 30 years with even previous presidents that we've had a lot of sketchy crap. I'm really interested to see if they actually give RFK the information on his uncle JFK, that whole thing.
I think so.
Because I think once that happens, it's really going to open some floodgates. I was listening to a deal, and they were talking about, because you've probably already heard this, where a lot of the lefties were saying, it's not fair. We need our own Joe Rogan and we need this and that. And it's like, well, let me explain something to you guys. So Joe Rogan, big podcaster, he was not a conservative. Never heard of him. He was not a conservative to begin with, right? He's much more progressive, much more liberal. You guys lost him because of the way you treated him. Tulsi Gabbard, she was the co-chair of the DNC. You lost her. She went independent first, and then she went fully Republican. RFK, his whole family's Democrats. And guess where he's at now? He's in the Trump train, right? He's on that side because you guys treated him like crap.
Yeah.
Let's keep talking about it. Let's see. Donald Trump, who is the Republican president, he wasn't always a Republican. He was a Democrat. He left the party. Ronald Reagan, Democrat, left the Democrat Party, went to be a Republican. You have so many stories of this that people are just like,
there was a one in Nebraska did the same thing. I can't remember his name.
oh yeah, you even get like what's that, John Fetterman, and then you get like Bill Maher.
Oh yeah,
all these folks that are like totally.
But what does that prove? That proves that look, man, and I'm not taking away from the Republicans, but that just is laying out exactly what we've been saying. And we've said this before, that the Democratic Party of yesteryear was a lot like the Republican Party of today. They had belief systems. They were religious. They worked for the working class. They protected the people. And they got lost in translation somewhere. I don't know where they derailed and it became what they are, but they're not that party anymore. And it's only getting worse. They're so disconnected from society. They're so disconnected from what's happening. The address not too long ago. There's more people. And this is funny because even people on CNN are attacking each other about it. Like they couldn't even stand up. I'm like, they couldn't even like applaud the positive things that were being said. Like it wasn't about Trump. Yeah. Does he toot his own horn? He does. There was things that were not about Trump. That young kid that's beating brain cancer, that other young man who lost his father and made it into the military academy. Riley, the girl that was killed by the illegal immigrants, they named a whole refuge under her name. Like there's so many things that he's done. Does it matter if it's for a publicity stunt? Does it matter if there was no thought behind it? Which I doubt. I don't think any of those are true. I think he did it because he really cares. But would it hurt the left to show a little concern? You know what? If they were to show a little bit of empathy, I think they could win some people back. But they don't. They double down on their BS. They double down on it and say, let's go make some cringy videos now on TikTok, and
right?
They're just stupid. So I don't know, bro. I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to leave you that the fact that we are so disconnected from reality. People's perception of the truth has overtaken them. And now they're spewing that toxic mentality, behavior to what it is today. And you could all sum it up into the fact that they have separated themselves from God.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And let's call it what it is. Let's say what it is. And these people they don't fear anything, and they think that the world is their playground to just spew hate, to spew lies, to spew all these things. And to me, it's sad because there are some people on the left side that still believe in government, and they believe every word that they say, and it's only making it worse for society. I think the left, the Democrats, had a great opportunity that night to try to unite the houses, right? Try to unite the parties and in turn win their people back. Because come on, let's be realistic. There has to be a world of division. There has to be Democrats. There has to be Republicans. There has to be these things, right? Because that's how you get the best, the cream of the crop. Right. Why do you think people have competition in sports?
Right.
And they go from one high school to another. You know what I mean? And so you want the best of the best. And how do you do that? Say, hey, this guy's been an up and comer. He's been doing this. But what they put these guys that are jokes to run the Democratic Party. That guy that's an anti-gun enthusiast. They made him like the speaker for them. And he's more of a joke than anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, seriously? What happened to class? What happened? Something that they always argued that Trump never had is he has no class. He has no manners, blah, blah, blah. But you look at this party. They're all professionally dressed. They're all professionally well-spoken. They do the right things. They do his daughter-in-law was the head of the RNC. Like she did all these things that she did and they did was great. Right?
Yeah.
And over there you have the clowns. Yeah. I feel like the next step I see is that like them coming into the Congress in a little clown car and all of them coming out of it, and I'm like, it's nothing left, brother. That's my 2 cents, bro. That's Joe's 2 cents. So that's all I have. Thank you. God bless America.
It is crazy on how much they have just went over the line on everything. Yeah, I can't remember her name. She's a Asian girl, pretty young, and she was raising money for the DNC, right? And she has now been going out on different talk shows talking about how they were just funneling money. They weren't, they weren't living up to expectations, and they were being mean to the people that were, working at the polls and all that kind of stuff. That party has changed so much, but in a way, I almost feel that it was always the same party and they masked it because it's always been the slavery party. They really believe in slave labor. Because if you think about it, you go back far enough in time, the Democrats were complaining, well, if we get rid of the black slaves, who's going to pick our cotton? Like, who's going to do all this stuff?
Oh, you mean like how they do it now? Like, well, if we deport all these Mexicans, who's going to pick the vegetables and the fruits out of the field?
Bro, nothing has changed. Right? It's the same party spewing the same racism and hate and everything. But everything they do, they try to throw it over on that. Because if you talk about any of the BLM riots or any of this stuff, they're constantly, like, anytime you see footage of people breaking into a Walgreens or a Target or a K Jewelers or anything, Baskin Robbins, doesn't matter. If they're breaking into a place, who are those people 99.999% of the time? It's liberals, right? It's not conservative people that are doing that. And what do they do every time? Well, January 6th, you guys broke into the Capitol. And it's like, yeah.
You're like, is that all you got?
You know what?
That's old.
And so here's the thing I would leave everybody with. If you're liberal or you're conservative, just think about this right now. Whatever side you're on, can you admit that your people were wrong? I will admit that people that on January 6th, and Joe and I have said this very many times, I don't believe some of those people should have been pardoned. Now, the only little caveat to that is some of those people spent 3 years in jail without any formal stuff done. So, maybe they did spend enough time
without having any charges.
Without any charges or anything, right? They were just being held all this time. Some of those people just walked in there and walked out. They shouldn't have been in jail at all. Now, the people that were destructive in there, I don't have a problem with them paying all kinds of restitution, doing jail time, community. Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that being said, if you are on the left, can you admit that to the people that were burning down buildings and stuff? And if you can't, then really think about that. Is it really the act that, you're concerned about, or is it just a partisan side that you're taking? Is that all it is? So, well, I'll leave it there. So
if they can't truly admit it, then they're the problem. Clearly.
That's right. That's right. 100%. Well, listen, before we get out of here, make sure you smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification icon to get updated whenever we upload a new episode. Every Tuesday, right, Joe? Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. We'll be here. Sexy, as always.
Yeah, always. We don't know another way. So, all right. Well, everybody take care of one another.
Do better, be better. And as always, God bless America.
We'll see you next Tuesday.